All right, so this week, I'm very proud to have one of my very best friends in the world, Joey Helmer, join us on the Diamond MV podcast. Joey is at OUinsider.com, and he devotes a lot of his time to softball coverage, which is really cool. This man was in my wedding. I think he does an exceptional job of covering OU softball. But one thing that he started this year that I really enjoyed, I know a lot of you out there do too, is his bracketology. That's one of the more exciting things about the NCAA basketball tournament is the bracketology that comes before the tournament's already started. So I've got several questions about your bracketology and where the Sooners sit now, Joey. Let's start, though, with this week in terms of handicapping the Big 12 tournament. I'll be called a jinx, and that's fine, but I think the only drama here is probably who OU is going to play in the championship game, Texas or Oklahoma State. How do you handicap this Big 12 tournament in OKC this weekend?
I think so. That's definitely the storyline. First off, yeah, thanks for having me on, Tyler. I appreciate it. Like I said, you're one of my best friends in the whole world. So, yeah, I appreciate you having me on. And as far as the Big 12 tournament is concerned, yeah, I think you look at Oklahoma and it's about who they're going to play. It's going to be Baylor or Iowa State first, and then you look at Oklahoma State or Texas. And I think for those two teams, what might be at stake is Oklahoma State being a top 8. If they're able to get to the championship game, they feel better about their chances about that. And then for Texas, it's about hosting. You're not looking at a team that's going to be hosting in supers, but potential hosting in the first round. So that's the storyline there. But the overriding storyline, like you said, is who's going to play Oklahoma for the Big 12 championship this weekend.
I don't think OU, I mean, maybe they have a preference. I don't know. I mean, they'll never admit it if they do. What would you guess that the fan base would prefer? Do you think the fan base would prefer beating Oklahoma State again for the 4th consecutive time this year? And, you know, judging by the rankings, it would be a better win. Or since Texas is the only loss, do you think OU fans would rather, you know, beat the Horns in the championship game? Which of the two?
It's funny when you look on our board right now on our bracketology, some of the replies to the story are about exactly that. And who would you like to play? Obviously, Oklahoma fans would love to beat Oklahoma State again, but I think there's a certain fraction of them that would like to get another jab in at Texas after they won that last game and snapped the winning streak. So I think it's split to answer your question, but I do think there are plenty of fans that would like to beat Oklahoma State again, and also those that are still frustrated about that losing streak, because we look right now and Oklahoma could be 49-0, winners of 51 in a row if they don't lose that third game at Texas. So yeah, either way, it's going to be a great matchup for them.
So before you got on here, I was just rambling about that Saturday game. And I think something really important happened for OU in game 3 in Bedlam, which was Nicole May came in a tough spot, man. She got out of that. What was it? The top of the 6th, I think it was. And then she closes out the 7th inning. And she's been good this year. But I also think it's fair to say that, you know, Jordy Ball and Hope Troutwine are clearly the number 1 and number 2. In terms of the confidence Patty has in her moving forward in this postseason, how big do you think it was for Nicole May to come in and get those outs in that game 3 of Bedlam?
It was enormous. I think it was certainly one of the biggest storylines of the weekend. She goes 6 1/3. What was really strong the other day, Hope Troutwine comes in and gets a couple outs for her, and then Troutwine gets into trouble, and you insert May back, and she puts out the fire. And so as you go through the postseason, I don't think it's going to be perfect. There's going to be times where Oklahoma is going to need one of those 3 to come put out the fire. And Nicole May has shown throughout her first couple of years to have that kind of DNA. She did it in Bedlam last year. She was huge. And like you said, Bedlam the other night. So you look at Jordy Ball, Hope Troutwine, and Nicole May, and you feel a lot better about the depth of your pitching staff coming out of last weekend. So it's a huge storyline. It really is going into the postseason here.
Let's get into your bracketology. I know that you have OU as the number 1 overall seed as things sit today, and I think everyone else would agree with that. Does OU have to win the Big 12 tournament to be the number one overall seed, or I mean, can they? Is there any result here to where they wouldn't be?
Yeah, I think they're fairly safe as the number one overall seed just based on what they've done this season. The one thing I'll say that could really hurt them in that regard is if they were to somehow lose to Baylor or Iowa State. Now, I think that's the scenario right now that would potentially put that in jeopardy. Virginia Tech and Florida State are on different sides of the bracket. So we'll see if that's going to be the championship game, how that all turns out. Those are the two teams right now. Arkansas have them at number 4, and but as far as Oklahoma, I think they're fairly safe. They've been the number 1 team all season. They won the national championship last year. I don't think many people question right now that they're the best team in the country. So, barring something unforeseen, that in losing to Baylor or Iowa State, I don't see any way that they're not on that one line on Sunday.
Yeah. As do I. So that means that, from the OU side of things, one of the intriguing things is who's going to be number 8, because obviously that's who you're going to face in the supers. As you have it today, who are 3 or 4 teams that we should be looking out for that can maybe get that last national seed and face OU in a super regional in Norman?
Yeah, so you look, and that's one of the big storylines here is there's kind of this hodgepodge of teams. Right now I have Clemson, Texas, and Kentucky in the 14, 15, 16 spots, and you look down the line, Notre Dame's a team that's right there. Central Florida, some people have them pegged as a potential host. So, LSU's kind of in the mix. There's a number of teams here that could be that 16. And I think, like Washington last year, it's like that's the last spot you want to be in, is having to come to Norman and face Oklahoma in a super regional. So, one of those teams is going to be unlucky in so doing. And right now I have that as Kentucky. We'll see as the week kind of plays out. This is a really, I put this in my story, it's a really fluid situation right now because there's so much that can happen this weekend. So by no means is that set in stone. And like I said, you do not want to be that number 16. You really don't want to be the 15 either. Facing either Virginia Tech or Florida State, because those are 2 really, really good teams as well.
Yeah. OU most likely is the number 1 overall seed, going to get a favorable draw in the regional. Do you have a projection today as to what OU's regional would look like if the season were to end today?
Yeah, I've been pretty steady and consistent on this. I will say there's been one change this week as we go into conference tournament play, and that is Nebraska replaces Missouri. Missouri is in the top 25 now. They're a little more highly regarded than Nebraska. And I believe as the number 1 overall seed, you're stand to benefit a little bit from that. You should. That's how the process should work. Nebraska and Missouri are both, relatively the same distance from here. So you don't have any major issues in that regard. The committee likes to place these teams. I get some questions about this. As far as what 4 seeds or what 3 seeds are in certain regions, and they like to regionalize it as much as possible. I think that the radius is like 400 miles that they like to keep these teams. So Nebraska or Missouri, I see those as 2 very likely teams here. Right now I have Nebraska, and I have Missouri going to Stillwater. So that could potentially be a very interesting matchup for Oklahoma State in their regional. So Oklahoma, Nebraska, North Texas, I still have pegged to win the Conference USA. That's going to be interesting to watch this week. Western Kentucky's a team that is on the bubble and really, really needs a win. North Texas obviously is on that bubble as well, but they need to win the league. And then as far as the 4 seed is concerned, it's Princeton right now.
Yeah. Anyone can get hot at this time of the year. We saw it last year with James Madison. I mean, they definitely rode the hot hand all the way to, nearly the championship series of the Women's College World Series. But as you see it, what does the tier look like and how many teams are in the tier that can legitimately win the national championship this year? OU will be favored. I think they are a favorite in Vegas right now. But how many teams are you putting with OU as teams that can legitimately win it all?
There's 4 or 5 teams right now that I feel like have a legitimate chance to win the national championship. First and foremost, obviously, is Oklahoma. I mean, we've made that clear that they're the number one team in the country. I like those 2 teams out of the ACC. I do. I feel like in some ways Florida State's trying to make this a collision course right now. Ever since they lost 2 out of 3 to Virginia Tech, they took 2 from Oklahoma State at home. They've looked really, really strong lately. So FSU's a potential. I like Virginia Tech. They're absolutely loaded for real. Their pitching's really good. They can score runs. And then as you go down the line, I just still believe Montana Fouts has another level. Alabama leads the SEC in ERA. And, it seems like Montana Fouts just has not been what Montana Fouts can be. So I feel like there's another level for her there in Alabama. And then Arkansas won the SEC regular season. That's the 5th team I would include in that mix. That's 5 of my top 6, by the way. And so I think as far as teams that I don't necessarily buy right now, UCLA is one of those, has to lead the list. They just lost 2 out of 3 to Arizona State. And I just quite frankly have not really been that impressed with what they've done offensively. I just don't think they score enough runs to beat a team like Oklahoma in a best-of-3 series and to navigate the Women's College World Series. Really good chance they'll be there, but those are the 5: Oklahoma, Virginia Tech, Florida State, Arkansas, and Alabama that I would throw in that realistic mix right now.
Back to OU, I think it was the Thursday game 1 of Bedlam. Patty Gasso seemed as pleased as she's been probably all year long about her team's performance. It kind of got the vibe that she thinks that they're trending in the right direction. Was that her tone after Saturday's game as well, after that close call? Do you feel like Patty Gasso feels as good about this team now as she has all year long?
Absolutely. I think it's the best she's felt about this team, and I'll tell you why. You look at the first, couple of months of the season, and Oklahoma was making a lot of uncharacteristic errors. And, it's not that they couldn't make plays. There were, just mistakes, throwing the ball wide, just mistakes that they can control. And they've taken that out of their game in recent days, especially last weekend. They were really, really good defensively. Grace Lyons has that double play on that line out. Jana Johns made a number of good plays at third base. So I think the way she feels about her team, you've seen obviously how many run rules that they've had this year, the way they've been able to hit the ball. The pitching's been really good, but kind of that third piece of the puzzle has been their defense. And they've really put that together in the last few weeks. So, yeah, this is the best this is the time you want to feel best about your team. And so I think that's really where it stems from, Tyler.
Yeah. Hey, last one here. A little bit of a prediction for the Big 12 tournament this week. I'm going to go with OU over Texas in the championship. I think Dolcini's going to get Oklahoma State in the semifinals. Who are you picking to win, and what is the championship game going to look like?
I actually completely agree. I think a lot of people are looking at Oklahoma State, and I think this is going to bust their potential to host a super regional. I like Texas in the Big 12 championship. Oklahoma State swept them in the regular season in Stillwater, and I don't really all those games were pretty close, and I don't think Texas had their best that weekend. They're a really inconsistent team. I'll say that. That's the thing. Texas, you look at what Dolcini, like you said, what she did against Oklahoma, there have been very few pitchers that have been able to kind of figure out Oklahoma, and she's one of them. So if she's on, then they're dangerous. And I like them, though. I think that's a coin flip of a game. It's one that everyone's going to need to tune into. But, yeah, I like Oklahoma and Texas, and I like Oklahoma to win the Big 12 championship this weekend.
He's Joey Helmer of OUinsider.com. He will be at every single game from Norman to Oklahoma City covering this OU softball team. And how many times a week does this bracketology come out? And just give us some info on where everyone can find it.
So it's once a week. Up to this point, however, this week I'm updating it every single day. So, yeah, you'll have one here after a bit. But I'm gonna try and update them kind of after most of the games go, maybe after the games of that day. So you'll have one today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There'll be 5 more, and obviously Selection Sunday is upcoming. So yeah, you can find all of that at ouinsider.com. It'll be right there on our front page. Just click on it, and you'll be able to see. I'll have the analysis of the notes of kind of what's changed and the overview as far as that's concerned. So yeah, feel free to check it out.
Yeah, check that out and follow him on Twitter if you aren't already, at Joey Helmer 247. He'll have all the softball updates for you live. Joey, great stuff. Appreciate it, and look forward to talking here as we get closer to the Women's College World Series, man.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, man.